This is the morning of the 19th of November. The last word with Lawrence O'Donnell. Lawrence humiliated Trump's dictatorship over Republicans is coming apart with the Epstein vote. Let's listen to what this man has to say. Plays for almost 9 minutes.
Stephen Groves of the Associated Press set the stage this way, quote, "Just before Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer called to pass the bill by unanimous consent, Oklahoma Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, a Republican who is close to Trump, walked in the chamber and gave Schumer a thumbs up. He then walked over to Schumer and shook his hand. Here is that handshake on video.
Look at all the empty desks, huh? Your representative's hard at work. What a joke.
Take a look at that picture of the Senate floor after the only Republican in the chamber, Mark Wayne Mullen, has left. That desk in the front row across the aisle from Chuck Schumer is John Thune's desk on the Senate floor. That is where John Thune or one of his lieutenants is supposed to always be to object to any unanimous consent request by Chuck Schumer. John Thune knew exactly what Chuck Schumer was going to do and when he was going to do it. He knew it for 2 hours, more than 2 hours before Chuck Schumer did it. Chuck Schumer had publicly announced exactly what he was going to do. And surely, as we can tell by Mark Wayne Mullen's handshake, Chuck Schumer had told John Thune what he was going to do. He said it publicly at 3 o'clock. John Thune told every Republican member of the Senate that the unanimous consent request was coming. They call them the hotlines. It is the way the Senate leadership in each party communicates with every member of the Senate about what is happening next on the Senate floor. They use the same landline telephones that have been in the Senate offices since the invention of the telephone, and those phones alert every Senate office that there is a unanimous consent request, and every senator can give his or her consent through those telephone hotlines without ever leaving their office. And if just one senator does not consent, then that's the end of it. And those hotlines are usually activated hours before the unanimous consent request is filed on the floor. And so what Mark Wayne Mullen was sent to do in a Senate chamber where John Thune didn't even want to be seen was to tell Chuck Schumer that the unanimous consent request has been cleared by the Republican hotline. And Mark Wayne Mullen, who can be so combatively defensive of Donald Trump in Senate hearings that he looks like he might throw a punch sometimes, found himself in the final moment of the Trump humiliation in the United States Senate today, shaking hands with the United States Senator who Donald Trump hates the most. And then, at 5:20 p.m., Chuck Schumer said this.
The American people have waited long enough. Jeffrey Epstein's victims have waited long enough. Let the truth come out. Let transparency reign. And I urge my Republican colleagues, let the Senate act today. And so, I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate receives H.R. 4405, the Epstein Files Transparency Act from the House, the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration, the bill be considered read 3 times and passed with no intervening action or debate, and the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Is there an objection? Without objection, so ordered.
The Senate has now passed the Epstein bill as soon as it comes over from the House. I yield the floor.
After Chuck Schumer succeeded in unanimously passing the House bill in the Senate, the humiliated and overwhelmed Speaker of the House used a lying excuse to try to explain why John Thune wasn't even there and didn't offer a single amendment in the Senate, didn't even speak. Mike Johnson claimed that because he was at dinner with Donald Trump and the dictator of Saudi Arabia when Chuck Schumer led the Senate vote at 5:20 p.m., that he didn't know what was happening. And that is a lie. The Saudi dictator didn't arrive at the dinner until 6:45 p.m. Mike Johnson also lied about what actually happened on the Senate floor, claiming that Chuck Schumer somehow pulled a fast one on John Thune, just snuck it in there when John Thune wasn't looking. As I said, Chuck Schumer announced at 3:15 p.m. on the Senate floor that he was going to ask for unanimous consent, and Mike Johnson knew that at 3:15 p.m. because it was on television in his office. Here is that moment.
Later today, I will ask unanimous consent for the Senate to hold a vote to pass the House Epstein bill.
The entire Congress knew that as soon as Chuck Schumer said it. But now, Mike Johnson has decided he has to lie his way out of his humiliation of having told his members that the Republican leader of the Senate would absolutely amend the bill after they voted for it. Here is the pathetically humiliated, lying Speaker of the House.
The cereal you eat for breakfast.
Another ad popped up. Sorry, folks. Took my finger off the keyboard.
Any reaction to Leader Thune, you seeing the bill without adding amendments or changing it?
I'm deeply disappointed in this outcome. I think, I've been at the state dinner. I don't know. I was just told that Chuck Schumer rushed it to the floor and put it out there preemptively. It needed amendments. I just spoke to the president about that. We'll see what happens.
So is he? Do you think he may veto it? You say you spoke to the president?
I'm not saying that.
Is he supportive of it in its current form?
We both have concerns about it, so we'll see. I was standing with the Crown Prince. We couldn't tell him.
Every member of Congress who didn't know it already knows now that Mike Johnson has no idea what he's talking about when he tells them what's going to happen next in legislation. He is a liar or a fool to have suggested that the Senate would amend the bill, and all of his members know that now. It is impossible for a Speaker of the House to achieve a more complete legislative and strategic humiliation than Mike Johnson achieved today, and it is impossible for a president to lose every vote of every senator in his party in the United States Senate on a vote that is entirely about that president himself and his own personal history and friendship with a sex trafficker and rapist of children. Donald Trump's dictatorship over Republicans in Congress is coming apart. The Epstein files have finally broken Donald Trump's dictatorial grip on the House and on the Senate, and that is why the coverage on this program has been focused on the Epstein files this year, because it seemed like it could be the thing that finally broke the dictatorial grip, and has finally done exactly that tonight. What happens next to the dictator's grip is unknown, but remember, just a week ago, it was unimaginable that there would be a unanimous vote in the United States Senate against Donald Trump to release the Epstein files. But that is where we are tonight.
None of it matters because, like I said, Trump's not going to sign it into law. And the excuse that he's going to use is that his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, is looking to investigate Bill Clinton and a whole lot of others. And as such, they can't release the information. That's why Trump got behind saying, yeah, go ahead, release it. I think it's a good idea. Because he knew that none of it would matter. That's just sort of what I think. Pass it along, and thanks for listening.